my last video for had no response, but I want to tell this story here anyway. Uh, that's the introduction, and I'll get right into it. So, when I was 20 years old, I tried to go to 3 different colleges for 1 semester each. I grew up in Michigan, so I went to MSU. Then I went to a school in Ohio called Steubenville University. Then I went back to Lansing Community College, and then I was living at home. I basically was just be a bum with no job, and my parents kicked me out when I was 20 years old with nowhere to go and gave me $500 and said, just, get lost. Summer was coming, so my dad suggested I drive to California. It was kind of like this cartoon here where, before I went to college, I had 2 choices. Down one path was playing as a piano player in this bar for full-time job offer as a pianist, where all I had to do was say yes and learn some Elton John and Billy Joel songs, and I would have been making a full-time salary and earning tips down one path. And down the other path was go to college at 17 when I looked like a 13-year-old, have everybody else around me look down on me and treat me like crap the entire time, and basically have my life fizzle out into nothing. So, and I didn't get to choose. Those were my two life paths, and I took the worst one, and it wasn't my choice at all. So 20 years old, I'm homeless. I have an Acura Integra. It was a great car. If you've never driven or been in an Acura, they're pretty nice cars. It had a hatchback where you could lay down the back seat completely horizontal. All right, here's what I did. I was in Michigan, so I drove down to New Orleans, and there were a bunch of black people there, and I was like, fuck this. I don't want to be in New Orleans. So I turned around and drove back up to Illinois or Ohio, or Illinois or Indiana, because my mom had given me a reference to some person she knew in her family who was a nun. That was the one person they suggested I go to help and gave me their contact information, was a nun. This is why I say my parents basically tried to shotgun wedding me into a priest. Shotgun wedding style. They basically just made me homeless, dead-ended my life, and then made me homeless and gave me the contact information for some fucking nun. So I'm back in Indiana looking for this person. Oh, and I was gonna say the reason why the person who I made the previous video for never responded is because in the video I explained why I would never return to Christianity and why I had found something different than Christianity, which I thought was, the truth, which I'd spent my entire life to find the truth, whether or not God was actually real. God itself, not I actually found the answers. So that was the story in my last video, and there was no response whatsoever. So that's okay. Once they realized there's no way I'm ever going to return to Christianity, I guess they lost interest. Anyway, back to my story. I drive all the way from Michigan to New Orleans, back up to Illinois, and then I can't find the person that they gave me contact, and I realize it was a joke, kind of try to go find this person. So I drive out to California, and I remember the trip. I went up through Colorado at some point. If you ever drive from Michigan to California or Illinois to California, you should go through the southern part. Albuquerque, it's a much nicer drive. This is where I live currently, is somewhere around here. And when you drive out here, it's a much nicer drive than up here because it'll take you through the mountains where there'll be snow in the middle of the summer and it'll take forever to get through. Just in case. So I end up in California, and some jerkbag national park cop gives me a ticket for running a stop sign at a park. So I ended up stuck in this town in California. I'm not even sure where it was. Somewhere in the mountains of California. Like, I can't even remember what the name of the town was. Big Pine might have been it. It doesn't even show a city, so I remember there was at least a city there. But I can't remember where I was. It was somewhere up here in the mountains of California. And I was living there for about a month because I had to wait for my court. I was going to fight this ticket, so I had to wait for my court date for a month. I'm living in the mountains up there, and I get some people drive by and call me names like they're, "What are you doing up here? Are you queer?" As they're driving by to whatever. And it was a pretty cool place, actually. There were some like natural caves around with water and geckos in the caves, and there was some kind of aqueduct system that I assume was feeding water to the city that you could see the water. It was like a artificial river that was right there. And I was living there for about a month, and I was playing my guitar because the plan at that time, I didn't want to become a priest. I didn't believe it. I knew it was wrong, and it made me so angry that they'd forced this religion on me. That's what had really messed up my life. And them fighting with me constantly about it had just made them dislike me and dislike me more and more until they just hated my guts and actually wanted to ruin my life just because I didn't want to go along with their brainwashing program that they think is a religion. I fought against it, so they told me I had every mental illness in the book, anger issues, made me go see a psychologist. They were really furious with me by the time I was 17 years old just because I didn't want to have to go to church twice a week or three times a week. So I was playing guitar up in the mountains of California. I had this acoustic plug. It was like an electric acoustic guitar that someone eventually stole from me. And that's kind of another story. People have stolen things from me and mugged me. I don't believe in Christianity, but I've gotten the real Christ-like experience because people hate my guts. Once your own family turns on you and they intentionally break down that psychological barrier that lets you interact with other people normally. Like hey, I know it's hard to watch my videos. I know I don't interact with people normally. That's not my fault. I gave up on human interactions like 20 years ago at least. This is not how I communicate when I'm talking to myself. I know I sounds stilted and awkward. The reason I uploaded the other video right away was because I wanted you to know it wasn't a made up story, that I didn't write some kind of script down and follow. I wanted you to know that I was speaking right off the cuff. I thought about it one night and I uploaded the video because that's what I remember from my memory. And I didn't want you to believe it was anything else that I had prepared ahead of time. Anyway, on to the story. I'm playing guitar up in the mountains of California. And I'm going to this local music store. I buy an amplifier. So I buy an amplifier. I'm going to go to the bars and play my guitar and sing for people. And along with the amplifier, I buy a little bit of bag of weed, a little bit of the green ganja. Now, I'd already in high school been smoking weed since I was 15. I'd been arrested twice. I'd been arrested for possession of marijuana twice already. So it wasn't like the first time I ever smoked it, and I also don't believe it was laced with anything. It was just marijuana. All right, there's a little bit of preface. You know how a good horror movie has foreshadowing and you see these kind of cracks start to appear in the walls where the scary shit is poking through, but you only get a glimpse of it before it reveals itself. It was like that. They tested me. By they, I mean the birds. The birds. Before this began, they tested me, and this was in California, as I was going into some hotel parking lot or something. I don't remember what I was doing. And there were people there. It was a parking lot with cars, and there were people having a conversation. And I heard a whistle, a cat call, like, woo, woo. I'd whistle, but I can't. And it made me so angry. Like, my instantaneous reaction was like, all of these people in my life had thought I was gay. My parents are trying to shove this Christianity down my throat, and I hate it. Everybody who knows me in my life has the wrong idea about me because they're interacting with this. The fuck is this? The fuck is this? What? Alright. Something popped up on my screen. They're dealing with the me that is the result of my horrible treatment for my family unit, this broken psyche, and they all blame me and hate me because they think I am that person when I'm really not. That's the me that's the result of having to deal with an immediate family that is completely hostile to me. And that's a hard thing to deal with for people who've never had one. So I get catcalled, and I get so effing angry because I'm not a girly boy. As many times as I've been accused of it, I never have done it. I've never been interested in it. I don't even think about it. And I realized after I get really, really angry, I hear all these like remarks of approval, and it's not people, it's birds. Like, hey, wow, that was pretty good, or pre pretty strong readout on that one. That was in California, but that was like a month before this, before I'm smoking weed after living up in these mountains, playing guitar and singing, trying to practice to get ready to play in bars. I also noticed at some point, as I'm playing and singing, there are birds that will land in a tree in front of me and will kind of sing along with me as I'm singing and playing. They'll just kind of sit there and listen, and they'll be right out in the open so I can look up and see them, and it's kind of like they're singing along, listening to me. And I always thought that was pretty cool, to have an audience. So finally, my court date, they dismissed the ticket I got because I just say to the judge I'm homeless and living out of my car. So the judge dismisses the case. At some point, I smoke weed as I'm up there in the mountains, and I hear this voice. I hear this vocal loop, and it's saying, hello, like, he's hot. Hell yeah. Hello. Like, anyways, as I was saying, he's hot. Hell yeah. Hello. Like an impersonation of a ditzy valley girl, right? A California valley girl. Except it's not a person, it's a bird. It's like a super high-pitched, miniaturized voice, a bird's voice, speaking this line of English to me. And I've never heard anything like it, so it freaked me out. Like any normal person, if they heard birds suddenly start speaking English to them, they'd flip out. That's what I did. So I took off running down this path to just put distance between myself and this English-speaking bird. And it's the same line is picked up by like multiple sources around me are all saying the same line in different times in this loop. And I stop and listen, and it kind of changes it. It'll turn into different words as I'm thinking about what's happening. And then suddenly it'll cut out. The loop, it'll go, it went total silence, and I'd hear, and it would start back up again. And the like slow, kind of calculated laughter that I just did, that was also birds. So I'm sitting here listening to this hello. Anyways, like as I was saying, he's hot. Hell yeah. Hello. Like anyways, as I was saying, he's a hot. Hell yeah. Hello. I eventually can't take it anymore. I run back to my car. I get in my car and I drive until night. I don't even know where I ended up. I just drove until nighttime, parked my car, and went to sleep because that's where I lived.